be anything you want to be. Swing that girl around and promenade, you see. There is a future bright and blue. There is a miracle in you. All four ladies chain across that ring. Turn the girl around, there I sing. Side star through. You California twirl, do side do. You make that ocean wave and there swing through. Boys trade and men turn through. Left Alabama.
Where copper was once king, there are only dead mines, gaping pits, and the slender hope that one day copper mining will start up again in western Montana. The cities of Butte, Anaconda, and Great Falls, once part of this rich producing chain, are groping towards the future. If there is one image, one symbol that shouts what's happened to copper mining in Montana, it is this smokestack in Anaconda, the company town 27 miles west of Butte. It rises 585 feet into the air from what used to be the world's most famous copper smelter. Now it's more like a tombstone. 3 years ago, the Anaconda company shut it down, saying it couldn't afford to meet new air pollution standards, and deciding instead to send its copper ore from Butte to Japan for smelting. 1,000 workers lost their jobs. There was a growing sense that the copper legend in Montana was coming to an end. It was. In 1982, about 300 jobs were eliminated when Anaconda shut down its mining operation in the cavernous Berkeley pit. Workers were given 1 week's notice. In June of this year, the final blow came when Anaconda announced it was, in the company's words, suspending operations at the East Pit in Butte. 700 men lost their jobs. Altogether, about 3,000 people were laid off in 3 years. The unemployment rate in Butte has now risen to 15.2%, and in nearby Anaconda, 17.8%.
Okay, number 12, last employer's name. Okay, just put the Anaconda company in there. Now, if there's no way that you can remember the exact day that you started to work, the month.
No, wait too bad. You're beat anyway. No.
There it is. There it is.
Finding a poker game in Butte is as sure as finding ore beneath the city streets. And with so many men out of work, there is more time to play and to tell and retell old stories.
I got him scared now.
Do you remember this meeting in particular?
No, I don't, but they're all so similar. The only time you really get a full union hall is during a strike.
During a strike.
For Norman Clements, with 27 years in the mines behind him, there are memories and the faded images of the past.
This man is dead, but the others are living. This is the buffalo that they donated. I forget who donated it to the miners' union during the '67 strike again, because that was our longest strike on history.
About 35,000 people live in Butte today, although at one point there were said to be 100,000 here. It was a raucous and cosmopolitan town with men who wanted to mine and women who wanted to follow them, streaming in from everywhere to settle on what they called the richest hill on earth. The M&M bar still stands, a souvenir of the Old West. Mostly retired miners come here now, like Harold Moody, who works as a runner or drink getter for the poker players. He worked the mines for 40 years.
When I went to work here, about 13 years old, there was 14,000 miners climbing up and down this hill like ants, three shifts a day. Excuse me, but down here, what they call the red light district, there were 350 girls down there of every nationality in the world. Yeah. Okay.
The hill straight ahead is a type of hill that they call a butte. It is from this hill that the city of Butte got its name.
Anaconda controlled the land, the mineral rights, the courts, the legislature, and up until 1959, most of the newspapers, including the Montana Standard.
The Anaconda Company was certainly a giant snake over Montana, as their name implied.
Bert Gaskill is editor of the Montana Standard, where he's worked for 36 years.
We had people calling us friends newspaper friends from around the country, telling us how lucky we were that Atlantic Richfield had bought out Anaconda, that they were a good corporate citizen, that they would do lots of things for Butte and Anaconda and Great Falls and so forth. We're still waiting. We haven't seen anything good that they've done for anybody.
We were losing $1 million a week. And we saw no chance to turn it around. We did everything we could. We cut, we trimmed.
John Calcaterra once worked for the Standard. Now he's in public relations for Anaconda.
I'll tell you, I can remember, you were talking about me growing up here. I can remember when working for the company was just like being in your mother's arms. It was the most secure thing in the world. I knew men who would work for a week, then go out on a big party for a week and lose their jobs, and then hire out at a different mine and go right to work. They worked all their lives that way. The whole mining industry is hurting.
This mine is almost at the foot of the steps leading to Stan Blackwood's house. Every morning he'd wait for the starting whistle, hop out of bed, and be at work within seconds. Stan was laid off a year ago, and his wife, Dawn, like so many miners' wives, has become the family breadwinner.
Is your wife relieved? Well, I should ask her directly. Mrs. Blackwood, are you relieved that he doesn't go into the mines anymore? I mean, that must have been terrifying, a lot of it, no?
It's terrifying, but it was scary when he was out of work then, too, because I thought, oh, you know.
Which is worse?
Oh, I don't know. One's as bad as the other.
Yeah.
So I liked it when he was working. At least I knew we knew how we were going to make it from day to day. But we've made it through tougher times.
Through tougher times?
Oh, yeah, we've made it. We had 5 kids home, and they go on strike and a layoff for 9 months.
A lot of people would be far more disturbed in a situation like this. And how do you face all that? How come?
Well, we see other people that are worse off than we are all the time, and we just thank our lucky stars that we have what we do have. The house isn't much, but it's paid for. It's ours.
Spent so much of your life in these
Well,
hills.
like I say, nobody has put any chains on my wrists and kept me here, and I got paid for every day I worked, and I've made a good living, you know.
Norman Clements has been out of work for a year. He and his brother Clyde used to work the same mine.
I always believed in a union. I think we got to have a union all the time, or they'll be working for $2 an hour. You got to have a union, because these big companies don't care about you. You know what I mean? Now, when I first came here, when you retired on a pension, you only got $30 a month pension. If it hadn't been for the union, we'd still only got $30 a month, and you couldn't live on it, right?
But as far as, it isn't being cruel.
Well, there you are, the old pit.
What would have happened if they hadn't closed this pit and it just
They
kept expanding? What does it do, eat up Butte altogether?
It would eventually, yes.
So this is the richest hell, huh?
Well, I believe it is what I've seen, underground and what's still underground. Like I say, they can take their smelters and they can take their crushers and they can say we're losing, but they're not going to take this ore from Butte unless they mine it in Butte. They'd love to take it somewhere else where labor was $1 a day, of course, and mine it, but it ain't going to be that way. God put it here, and that's where she's going to stay.
Norman Clements is a man of deep faith, and on Sunday he picks up the neighborhood children to drive them to church. When his wife has to work, he takes her place teaching Sunday school. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the preacher asks, "What profit hath a man of all his labor?" The answer, "There is nothing better for a man than that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor." The very first union that miners ever had in America was founded here in 1881, Butte Miners Union No. 1. It began with under 100 members, and in its heyday swelled to 17,000. Initially, the Union Hall was a simple place, and then it moved into the Silver Bow Club. This sturdy and ornate premises once frequented by the copper kings and their bejeweled women. All that is gone now, the miners and the members. But Butte Miners Union Number 1 determinedly and stubbornly refuses to give up. Its doors are still open. Joe Maynard, financial secretary for the union, was a miner for 27 years and laid off 2 years ago.
I believe I have been union all my life, and I will die that way. Because the little guy, that's all you have left. Between your corporate giant, government, you must have labor for checks and balances. We all must keep each other in tow. If we don't, they'll go bananas, walk all over you. For the little guy, this is all we have left, is through labor.
On June 30th, the day the last pit closed, Butte responded with a touch of the old spirit and held a community renewal picnic. It was a solemn affair. The miners were there and their families, wondering what comes next.
Well, at the east end of town, at the foot of the hill, there's a chimney so tall, and it says Aragon Mill. But there's no smoke at all coming out of the stack. You know the mill has pulled out, and it ain't ever coming back.
Where do these people go after they've lived and worked in a community for 30 to 50 years? Their roots are there, they have a home there, their family is there. Where do they go? Do they go to New York to get a job? Do they go to Los Angeles and work in a taco stand? No, they aren't going to do that. How can you support a family on $3.35 an hour? So you stay here where your friends are, you work where your friends are, you get by the best you can.
And the only tune I hear is the sound of the wind as it blows through our town. Weave and spin, weave and spin.
From boomtown to bust, from the richest hill on earth to a tourist attraction, from a bulging population to deserted streets, from men on the job to 15% unemployment, Butte has become a metaphor for the American labor movement in the 1980s.
But there's no smoke at all coming out of the stack. You know the mill has pulled out.